Okay, so just a word about what I think I'm here to talk about today. This is actually half spontaneous and half prepared. There's a lot of material in this topic. So the question that Elias mentioned that he and I have actually had some very interesting conversations around is this theme of nourishment. And specifically for me, the theme of nourishment has to come back to the body at some point. Even though we just did this beautiful experience of feeling how maybe the body is in me. Yes. But then there's also this body that we maybe have the experience of dragging around because it has aches and pains and it doesn't work so well as it gets older. Some of you may have noticed this, perhaps. Yeah. And that's the body that we often tend not to want to think about as much, or at least give it a second-class status in some way. You know, somehow it's not quite as important as this move. And so one of the things that I want to just draw our attention to is that while we're in this outward movement, this expansiveness and feeling spaciousness, and I'll talk about that a little bit too, it's also of equal importance, and I do want to say it's of equal importance to remember that there is no line between the outward expansion and the inward expansion, which includes all of the daily details of how we live, the little things that we do. The group that I met with yesterday for the offering, we spoke about this a little bit, that it's also in the mundane. And I'm going to share the same line from Confucius that I mentioned in our group yesterday, which is, the common man sees wonder in the uncommon. The common man sees wonder in the uncommon. The wise man sees wonder in the commonplace. Okay? The wise man sees wonder in the commonplace. That's the little bridge I'm building here, is the space between the ordinary and the wondrous. And I want to suggest that our bodies are also that bridge. So this is just an invitation to see our bodies as another one of the bridges to God, if you like. Think of it that way. So that's my little preamble. I'm going to be fairly free in how I present what I'm talking about, and I do welcome some input, but I would like to get through some parts before questions. So if you do have a question, I'll leave time for sure to have some group discussion, and I think that's important. But just for now, I'd like to have everybody first just settle into this sense of that question that Elias mentioned earlier. What nourishes us? So just take a moment. Just feel, where does that land for you? So I'm going to say a few words as you're feeling, what is your nourishment? I just want to acknowledge that in my mind, when I'm asked a question, the first thing that my mind wants to do is supply an answer. It's very tempting. Probably a part of my training, the form of education that I've had, is that when asked, respond with the correct, precise answer. Okay, well, this one doesn't have quite such an easy answer because it's different not only for each of us right now, it's different within each of us from day to day to day throughout our lives and the seasons of our lives. So this question is one that needs to remain open. The question of what nourishes us is not definitively answered ever. Just a word on the word, nourish. I'm also one of these people who, I say I'm a word nerd. So if you don't know what a nerd is, I'll have to explain, but it's somebody who really gets into the details of things. I love the origins of words in English and other languages. It's always interesting to me to see the chain of thought, the chain of thoughtfulness that has produced a word. And the word nourish is one of these that's very interesting because it has multiple meanings that are very rich. We might take it to mean something like food, and of course that's included. But the word actually means something along the lines of love and cherish. Now, where have we heard those words before? To love and to cherish, right? That's a deep concept in relationships, marriages. So this word cherish means really to hold dear. And so embedded in this question of what nourishes us is this other question and a whole stream of questions. But what is it that we hold dear? And in turn, what holds us dear? Because we have some responsibility in both directions, I think, to hold dear and to be held dear. And to me, that's the dance of this, what we talk about here with the open path or the Sufi way. These different kinds of vocabularies that we use, to me, actually were the spark that started this conversation in my head. And for me, there is a connection, there must be a connection between the inner and the outer, and our daily lives and the lives that we aspire to live. So, just a word on questions, just to kind of feel the depth of what we're doing here. For me, questions function something like a door, an invitation. And so when we ask a question, what we're doing in effect is we're opening to something that was previously unseen. It wasn't accessible or visible. So holding that door open is essential for several reasons. One, if we can't open the door, we can't pass through the door and find out what's on the other side of it. And two, if we don't hold the door open long enough, it may close on us and we may lose sight of it and not remember where it was. So again, just to set the stage a little bit, this idea of questions, both as holding space, but as also invitations, things we knock and it shall be opened, that sort of thing. So let's open the door of this question, what nourishes us? And just see what lies on the other side of it. I'm not going to be preachy here. I'm not going to tell you what you should all do, how you should eat, how you should sleep, how you should wake up and have a day. It's not really like that. And so what I want to do is just draw connections. That's the most important thing for me today, is to make connections between the nominal reason for why we're gathered here, which is to immerse ourselves, at least for me it is, to immerse ourselves into this spaciousness of being, this the fullness of our hearts, all of that. But we do it with bodies. And it's important to remember that. And to remember it as often as we can, because that becomes in itself a living meditation, if you want to call it that, a living practice of remembering the little bits with all the grandeur of the sweeping, connecting streams that pass through us and put us in touch with everything.